So we'll be talking about EIB in today's session. Last week we covered reports, and um, today we are going to talk what EIB is, what is outbound EIB, inbound EIB, what's the purpose of EIBs. So this is our agenda for today's session: EIB, which is Enterprise Interface Builder, EIB components, outbound EIBs, and inbound EIBs. So let's just first understand that what EIB is. So EIB is, you can say it's a template. It's a specific template, and in order to build simple inbound and outbound integrations between Workday and external endpoints. And that endpoint could be um, any specific tool. It can be an email, it can be any other application, it can be a file server. It EIB actually gives us a framework to build our own integration based on our specific business needs. So for example, let's say, to start with the simplest example, that if I have a particular report, for example, and I have to share it with a specific person or a group of people, and I need to do it, let's say, every month, or maybe twice in a month, or maybe every week. So and why I'm sending that report repeatedly, because I want the receiver to know that what's the updated status of that record that I'm sending to him or her. So for example, let's say um, I'm sending a headcount report to my finance team, let's say, or maybe to pushing the headcount report to payroll. So month by month, the record of that headcount sheet is changing. Why? Because people are coming and people are leaving. There might be some internal transfers as well. There might be some other changes as well. So the purpose is that the other party can get the updated information, and I need to have, for example, an automated process for doing that, so I can use EIB for that purpose. That's just a simple example. It can be as complex as it's needed by the business. So this is one example, that in inbound import data. So inbound EIB means that target is Workday, means we are pushing the data from other application into Workday, and when we have to do it, then we use inbound EIBs. So for example, import accounting journals into Workday from an Excel spreadsheet that you provide as an attachment. Import data into Workday from an Excel spreadsheet to perform bulk business processes. So for example, hiring a group of employees or requesting mass compensation changes. Import transaction for expense credit card from a card issuer. You can then process the transaction in Workday expenses. So these are all the examples. So for example, let's say uh, there are let's say there is an acquisition in the company, and for example, uh, like there is one company already created in Workday, and now my organization has acquired a new business, a new organization, a new company. Now I want to set it up. I want to set up all the people of that new company into the same tenant that I am having for my current organization. Now I need to create maybe 500 users, means 500 profiles. So I can use EIB. I can use inbound EIB templates, and I can transfer that data in bulk. So EIB, you can say it's a specific template, and we'll be taking a look of template very shortly. So we can actually enter the data in that specific format and load it in Workday. Again, inbound means that Workday is the target source, and Workday is the target, and the source of data is something else. So we are pushing from source to target. Then there is an outbound data. Now, outbound data means that we are exporting the data. In this particular case, source is Workday, which means that we are uh, extracting the data from Workday in various format and sending it to other external points, and that can be an email, a file server, as I mentioned in the beginning. So getting a report from the system and sending it on email or having it saved at a particular location, that is outbound. If we talk about a couple of examples, so export all active employees from Workday in XML format and send it to an external endpoint with SFTP. So SFTP is actually generally file transfer protocol, file server. Export employee hours and billing rates from Workday in CSV format and send it to an external endpoint with SFTP. Export employee headcount and contribution data from Workday in CSV format and send it to a life insurance provided by email. So these are a couple of examples that if, for example, I want to send an update to my life insurance vendor every month, or maybe every time a person is leaving, I can build up that process and I can do it using integration, EIB basically. So what are EIB components? Workday represents the integration as an enterprise interface, which you build and configure before the integration is ready to launch. You can design an enterprise interface by using a wizard design method. Create simple inbound or outbound integration in a few steps with the wizards, which guides your configuration with appropriate options based on the data flow. So EIB has three basic components. Get data, the data received from an external source, and the location of that data. So as we mentioned that we can get the data from an external source, the data that the integration extracts from Workday. So for example, we are, as I mentioned, headcount report, there can be other examples as well. So we are having a specific custom report, and based on which we can build that integration. So the first component was get data, that is what is the source of the data. The second is transforming that data, and the third is deliver that data. So we need to know that what is the target source, what is the target, what is the source, and how that data would be transformed and delivered. So again, it can either be from an external source or it can either be from Workday. The transform component converts the data into a format that Workday or the receiving external endpoint can understand. Workday provides some delivered transformation, but you can also create your own transformations. The component defines, this delivery component defines how, this component defines how Workday imports data from or export data to an external endpoint. So the three components are get data, transform it, and deliver it. So what are outbound EIBs? We can, and how we can set up outbound EIBs. We first of all, and again, just to repeat, outbound means that Workday is the source. Data is going to move out from Workday. So we have to determine the data source that best fits our need. You can create an outbound EIB integration that exports Workday data to an external endpoint. You can configure your EIB to get data from one of these data sources. What is web service? You can select a public outbound Workday delivered web service operation, or you can select or create and select a custom report. So we are going to, these are the steps that we are going to follow to create outbound EIB. So let's just start, and let's first take a look of inbound EIBs, because in inbound EIBs, these are the templates that we already we have quite a lot of templates already available in Workday, and we can use these templates to uh, load the bulk data, for example, in Workday. Again, loading the data through EIB is one example of it. There can be hundred and thousands of things that you can do using EIBs, but we are starting from the simpler example. So instance is the keyword that we use to specify the search. So integration system, if we are going to type this keyword as we do for BP and other things, so we are going to just find the integrations or EIBs using this integration system. So this is, let's take a look. This is, so what we can do, we can generate a spreadsheet template. So this is a template that we have generated. Now Workday has like quite like a big number of EIB templates already available that are normally needed for different day-to-day things by organizations. Hire is one of them. That, for example, if we want to run a hire process in bulk, we can use this EIB. Let's just see if there is already. We can also see the prior EIBs or the prior integrations that were run using this specific integration. So for example, integration events. So now what I'm doing here, I am actually checking that if anybody has actually executed this EIB in the past. So in this specific tenant, if there are when was the last time this EIB used and by which user, because although we are using this specific user, but there are many other users as well, and I am basically trying to uh, check that which events were executed using this, and what were these records uploaded successfully. So again, this is because a shared tenant, a public tenant, so somebody just for the sake of trying just put one record there and then uploaded it. So this is the EIB template, right? um, so let's just first go through this in detail, that what are the processes that are involved in this specific EIB, and so we can basically understand that how to use EIBs. So this basically, this tab overview is actually giving us the explanation that what this EIB is about. So this is a web service operation. This web service operation is designed to hire an existing applicant into an employee position or job using the hire employee business process. Then we have this option that whether we want to automatically complete the process, or we are targeting to have manual processing. We want to directly run that, okay, we have checked each and everything, we know how this process, so let's just run. So these are the different options, and these are the business processes. So what does this hire process has, and how many like business processes are associated with this one process? So for example, hire employee, then we have proposed compensation of hire. So these are all the things that whenever we are hiring a new person in the system, these are the all steps that needs to be completed. Propose compensation for hire, update ID information, government IDs, passport and visa license, custom IDs, and like every each and everything related to employee. Generally speaking, before hiring anybody, there is a like we need to have a position created. So similarly, we also have create position EIB, which means that we can also create position in bulk through EIB. So that is another thing, but of course, for the sake of understanding, we are using higher EIB. So this is the template, and that's how you uh, basically fill in the data. So if you click on this, the comments that are given in each field, you will also see that some of these fields might be optional and some might be mandatory. So you see that required, these fields are required, these are optional. So if you don't want to fill in a specific data at this point, you can leave it blank. But for certain options, these it's mandatory to enter that information. And once we like fill in all the things, generally we would have this data in Excel format, let's say. So we would just copy and paste all these details in this specific format. Basically, this is what we called EIB. So there is a higher EIB, there is termination, there is compensation EIB, there can be performance EIB. So there can be different EIBs for different processes. We can also create an EIB that we would see that how we can do that. But so over here, uh, that's applicant ID. This is in that case, because once we have uh, an applicant created in the system, because as you see that over here, uh, we are basically running a hire process, and in order to do that, we should have a candidate like pre-hire profile already existing in the system. So that if we are either we are going to convert that applicant into hire, in that case we should have this ID. If that applicant ID is not there, it means then we have to give some uh, other ID here. So again, we'll put each and everything and every information here, name, reporting name, country, title, descriptor, then propose compensation. We'll uh, like add the compensation element, we'll add the ID information, government ID. So all that, although those business processes that were listed in the overview tab, so we are going to put the data for all these things. And once we are done with that, we are going to upload it in the system. And the reason why we can download it, because it was uploaded in the system previously. So this is how we can look for different EIBs. Let's just take a look of another one. So create position is another option of uh, EIB, which means that, for example, if I want to create 100 positions, instead of following that step by step process, I can put the details of this position all the position in this format, and I can actually put that in the system and create the position in bulk. So let's see if this was used by anybody earlier. If we know that there is a specific person who executed or who might have run the process, we can also search by it. We can also give the date and time range if we want to, that in this particular time this EIB was used. So it means that somebody created it for the sake of practice and nobody has used it. So create position, close position, these are again all different kind of EIBs, but we use these EIBs because once uh, when we want to run the process for a like in bulk, these are not recommended in order to run a higher process or create position for a single record. These are always uh, like these should be used uh, for executing the process in bulk, and that actually saves time, and you can do it in like in a couple of minutes, provided you have entered the data in the correct format. And um, let's say the EIB that we just downloaded, let's just try and upload the same EIB. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to upload that same file that I just downloaded. So we'll go to the integration system, the higher EIB, integration, launch and schedule. Previously we were generating the template, so we use this template model. Now we can launch it. I want to do it through an attachment, means uh, a file. So I will create an integration attachment and attach a file. So I'm going to do this one, and this file is attached. Now we'll run this. So I can see the file details here, and we'll click over here. Uh, I can also try and like I can also click on this checkbox. The benefit would be that it would only validate it first and will not run. And if there will be any errors or any problem, then I would know it. I would eventually know even if I'll run it directly, but this process would run a little bit quicker. But for now, I'm going to run this actual integration attachment process. So now I want to see the result. So you see this is showing me that all all records load successfully, because there was only one entry in the record for now. So it's showing that one there was in total one record, and it was processed. If for any reason there is any error, or maybe I have not entered the data correct in the correct format, so that record might get failed. So this is how basically this is the simple process. And what we are doing here, so we are basically uh, putting like using Workday delivered template to transfer bulk data in Workday. So these templates are basically the format that are understandable by Workday. So we can use it for different purposes, different business processes. Even if we want to, let's say, um, uh, compensation change, we want to uh, execute allowance change, compensation change, we can do that same thing using that EIB format. So this is this is one way of it. Now uh, so all these examples are inbound EIB examples. Now let's just try for outbound EIB, like executing the outbound process, EIB process. So outbound means that we are extracting the data from Workday. So it can be through report, it can be through core connectors, and it can be through uh, public web services. So in today's session, we are going to talk about reports. Our next session would be based on core connectors. So we'll see that how we can create an EIB and how we can actually like use one report and then create an EIB to schedule it to be delivered like maybe every week or every month. So let me see if I can look. Okay, so let's just first create a custom report. So we'll, as a sample, add a couple of fields. Business units, hire date, business title, and let's say job profile. We'll simply add a company filter so that we can have a set of data instead of the big amount of data. So we'll just go for these 5 options. I can even, for example, add a criteria for termination date or hire date or any filter that I want to put in. The purpose of using this filter is that I only need information of these companies. So I have added this filter. So let's just first run it and see if what data is showing to us. So we got this data that maybe business units feel is not you. So we have these 32 employees. Now let's say I want this uh, report to be delivered to a um, specific department, let's say, and I want to um, create an EIB using this report. So just to clarify, we are using this. We have first created the report, and now based on this report, we are going to create an EIB. And the purpose of creating an EIB is integration, because as we talked in the beginning, that it is actually going to allow us that how we can basically either transfer the data from Workday or to Workday using Workday delivered or Workday understandable format. So EIBs are actually Workday understandable formats. So now one thing that we need to do is that we have to enable this, because we intend to use this report or in an integration where we are trying to send it to maybe an email, let's say in this particular example. So we have to have, like, we have to enable this option, enable as web service. So once we enable it as a web service, this Workday actually generates a namespace against the overall fields as well. So you will see that each and every field that we have, it has actually generated over here. It has generated that namespace, and this would actually allow Workday to use this report in integration. So let's just create an EIB. So we have this. Now the next step is that we need to create an EIB. So let's just uh, follow the steps um, that are given in our presentation. So we have, first of all, we needed a data source. So our data source is the report that we just created. Now it's saying that when creating a custom report, select the enable as web service checkbox, which we just did. Create security proxy to grant report access, which I believe we already have, because we are using, we are currently accessing the user that has already uh, like super user access. And now let's move and see how we can create an EIB. So again, we have to create outbound EIB. Now, if we want to use a specific custom report, so I just pasted the name of that custom report, and we are going to, like, this EIB is going to get the data through this custom report. Now, if we what format we are looking for, these are the different formats. If you remember, uh, we talked about it in our last session as well, where we discussed these different types of um, reports, these different output formats. The purpose was that, for example, if if we need to create an integration with some Google apps, so we are going to use a different format. If we are going to uh, generate in XML or Excel format, then we are going to do a different one. If we intend to create uh, any specific um, like RSS feed, then we are going to uh, use that specific format. So depending on uh, what your target source is, what your target is, like in from which application you want to uh, build that integration, depending on that you would actually use that format. So for now, let's just use CSV. And as we discussed, so there are three components: get data, where we are defining that from which like source type we want to do that. Custom report transformation, and we want to deliver it to as a Workday attachment. Now, what's the difference between Workday attachment and email? So Workday attachment would actually generate that email, but the user will have to access Workday in order to view that. And if I would select that email option, so in that case, this report will be delivered to that specific email addresses. Now, if I want to deliver it to any specific format, I will type that uh, email here. Let's say if I want to BCC any, I can do that. And if, for example, I want to have this same from uh, again, for right now, I'm just adding this exam as an example. And if, let's say, the subject of the email should be monthly headcount report, and let's say I am sending it to uh, finance team. Again, depending on whatever you want to write, this is a line that is showing that it's part of the Workday integration processing. We are going to, okay, file name, sorry, RB, okay. So file name should be this. And now we'll complete the process. And now so this was the EIB that we have created, outbound EIB, using this custom report. Now, if I want to run this report, run this EIB, I will go to this, like I can schedule that, and I can basically run this EIB using that. I'll go to EIB sample, and then I can run this EIB. I can also schedule it using that exact data source, and I can, for example, I want it to be delivered, let's say weekly, monthly, custom occurrence. If I want to do it, let's say monthly, over here I would define that how often I want to uh, run this report every month, days of the month, first of every month. What would be the start time? Let's say 10 a.m. Time zone I can select it. I want it to run from which date to which date I want to schedule is that. Let's say I want it that uh, 1st October is already gone. So let's say 10th October, and I want it to continue for a year, let's say, and I have scheduled this. So this is the This is the whole process, that we created a data source and then we integrated that data source with an outbound EIB. So we have set up that EIB integration, and we can this integration would basically will be executed automatically depending on what what we have defined there, that what's the process, how often it should run that. So we can uh, define it and then it would automatically uh, get executed. So this is the overall process of setting up outbound EIB. Access the create EIB task and select outbound. That's what we did. Access the view integration system report and select the EIB from the integration prompt folder. Workday displays the current configuration for the EIB. So let's just follow this as well. View integration system report. And now we are basically, although we have scheduled it, but we are now running it right away as well. And for future process, we have defined that it should be delivered every month starting from tomorrow and will continue for 1 year. So we can do this. So this is the whole process of creating and running in EIB. So we have done this. We created a data source type. We enabled it as web service. And then we run that whole process. Now coming to inbound, although we already just uh, before doing the outbound EIB process, we actually went through the uh, inbound as well. So set up inbound integration. We can, so let's, the process is exactly the same. Again, our what we are trying to achieve is that we have a different requirement. uh, in the first example that we created, we actually used a custom report, and um, for inbound EIBs we can um, we can basically create we can basically generate through those EIBs and then put that data in those EIBs, and then we'll uh, use for uh, for bringing the data into Workday. Outbound uh, integration, the data source that we have used today, actually that is one uh, one type, which is custom report. But we can, as I mentioned, we can use core connectors as well, which are basically Workday provide cloud um, cloud connect, and there are different core connectors that we can use to build that outbound integration, and then we can use it via Workday delivered web service as well. So this is about the process. Please let me know if you have any question, anything so far that we have covered. The steps that you can see here, these are all the steps that we have used, or we have already practiced in today's session. So let's just go to inbound EIB. So as I mentioned, you can import data into Workday from these external sources by creating an inbound EIB. A Microsoft Excel spreadsheet based on Workday web service operation, an externally generated file, which is comma separated value file, for example, or a REST URL. When you edit an EIB, Workday detects misconfigured settings based on the data source and prompts you to clear them. When an EIB uses a custom report or web service, Workday determine it as an outbound integration. When an EIB doesn't use a custom report or web service, Workday determine it as an inbound integration. So what we need to understand here is that if we use a custom report or web service, Workday determine that the integration is outbound, which means that we are pushing some data from Workday to some external source or external endpoint. If we are not using custom report or web service, Workday is understanding that this is an inbound integration. We also need to understand that uh, uh, there are specific IDs that are associated with different fields that we use. So, and we'll quickly take a look of those details as well. Inbound file size and document attachment limit. So these are some of the limitations of inbound EIBs. So there is a specific size limit that these EIBs has, which means that of course uh, we can put a lot of records in those files and push it in Workday, but there is a certain limit. I don't remember exactly what the limit, but again, it's not like that you can upload unlimited data. So maybe you need to break it down into like different files. There is a certain document retention uh, limit as well. So let's just quickly take a look the EIB that we actually created. So firstly, if we have created an EIB, and if we want to added that EIB, then we can make uh, we can make changes to it. But what change I'm basically trying to make here is that I want to added the process that I have defined. So for example, so you see that I can see all the details that I added there. And this is document retention policy. If I One thing that we need to see here is that, for example, I uh, I created a schedule for this report. Now, if I go back and go to schedule, and over here we previously selected this. Now, if let's say I'm trying to so you see, you cannot schedule a process to run more than 5 times after the end of the next calendar year. Please adjust the end of the range of reoccurrence so that the process is scheduled to run a maximum of 5 times after the end of the next calendar year. Now I have actually generated it for I gave the range of 9 years. So this is what is mentioned there in the limitation. So we cannot like set a recurrence range for an unlimited period of time. There is a certain limit to it. Similarly, when there is There is a limit of document size as well. So these are some of the limitations as well.